if they terminate this project, that threatens future foreign investments as well. So as all these concerns were circulating, we never saw a lot of evidence why the administration put this on pause in their claims that they had put out there. Trump finally gave that green light.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by energy and environment reporter Callie Patteson. Callie, the big, beautiful bill has finally passed, at least the House.
Yes.
The reconciliation package with the tax cuts and the different spending provisions. What are some of the energy components of this bill?
Yeah, so the biggest one that we're looking at is the IRA tax credits. And so we saw a lot of major clean energy tax credits from the IRA back in 2022, a lot of them helping boost domestic production of different sources like renewables, wind and solar, but then also it provides some support for other sources like geothermal, hydro, and of course nuclear energy as well. Now, previously, Republicans were proposing phasing out these credits from between around 2029 to 2031. This was seen as pretty extreme to a lot of folks. And what we actually have now in this final bill that's been passed is something that's even harsher. So what Republicans have done is, they've sort of bent to a lot of really hard-pressed conservatives like Texas Republican Chip Roy, who really wanted a full repeal of all these green subsidies. That's what they were saying. We had campaigned on.
I mean, a lot of them wanted to get rid of the Inflation Reduction Act, period.
Entirely, yeah. And so what we're seeing is some of that language. And so right now, these tax credits are essentially going to be gone, these tech neutral credits, unless projects are able to start construction within 60 days of the bill being enacted into law, and if they can be placed in service, meaning operational, by the end of 2028. This is pretty detrimental to a lot of projects that are looking at, construction dates for the late 2020s or even 2030s. And a lot of folks have been saying that these types of timelines would really hurt the nuclear industry. So what we actually see in this final package, in the revision that we saw this morning, is a little bit of relief for nuclear. Now, they're still subject to that 2028 timeline. However, they don't have to be operational by then yet. They just have to be in construction at that point. We also saw a extension for existing nuclear reactors for their subsidies. That's going now until 2031, which is a 2-year extension from what Republicans had been pushing earlier in the weeks.
So we've discussed before that President Trump is not a big fan of wind energy, but that doesn't mean all wind energy projects are off limits in this administration.
No.
Talk about one that's been given the green light to resume.
Yeah, so Empire Wind is located off of the coast of Long Island, New York. And so it actually has been on pause from construction for the last month. Now, back when Trump signed his executive order really putting a pause on federal support for offshore and onshore wind projects, a lot of folks in the industry thought that previously permitted projects and projects under construction wouldn't be impacted. However, then we saw in April that Interior Secretary Doug Burgum called for a pause in all construction for it. He had claimed that the Biden administration had really rushed the permitting process for this project. Now, this is a project that first got its lease for this for the wind farm back in 2017, and they didn't get their final permit until 2024. So it's been a long project in the making, and being put on pause really was threatening the company. And so they came out just a couple, I think it was last week, they said that they were losing around $50 million per week by having this project paused. And they were having to consider whether terminating it entirely. Now, a lot of folks were shocked by this. This was a project that was supposed to be pumping in electricity to hundreds of thousands of homes by next year. That would be a major hit to folks in New York. And a lot of people, this project, it's being sponsored and being built by a Norwegian company. So folks were saying if they terminate this project, that threatens future foreign investments as well. So as all these concerns were circulating, we never saw a lot of evidence why the administration put this on pause in their claims that they had put out there. Trump finally gave that green light on Monday. And so Equinor, the company that's backing it, said that they have restarted construction, and it's a 2-part project. The second part is going to be off the coast of New Jersey, so we should see that up and running over the next couple of years.
So one thing that President Trump does like a lot better than he likes wind energy is tariffs, and
Yes.
there have also been some new tariffs, haven't there?
Yes, so this is actually new tariffs on solar cells from 4 different Asian countries, from Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, and Malaysia. The interesting part is these tariffs stem from investigations that started under Biden. So it's kind of a multi-administration thing that we're looking at here. About a month ago, the Commerce Department said that they were going to impose these tariffs as high as 3,500% on solar cells from these 4 areas, based on an investigation that they were accepting subsidies from China to dump products into the market and really hurt U.S. developers and manufacturers for solar. Now, the International Trade Commission just came out this week and agreed with that assessment, basically giving the administration the green light to start imposing these tariffs. Now, a lot of folks in the solar industry are a little worried about this. You know, the administration says it's really going to boost domestic development and manufacturing for solar. Other folks are saying this is going to increase costs. About 77% of U.S. solar module imports came from these 4 countries. So that's a big hit if we're seeing prices increase. However, you know, I've spoken to a few analysts over the last couple weeks about this, and we've already seen some of the supply chain shift. You know, we're seeing other folks look towards India, look towards Laos for other alternatives. And at the same time, these major costs aren't going to be hitting consumers as much as we think. What we've heard so far is U.S. module prices might rise between 8 to 10%, but that overall cost on solar is only going to be 2 to 5%. So that's enough for manufacturers and developers to kind of eat those costs themselves, so we don't see people at home fully taking on those costs. Now, if we do see a little bit of a slow in solar deployment or a little bit of an increase in prices, a lot of folks are saying it's just going to be in the short term. The solar industry has survived similar tariffs before, and they think it's going to survive again.
Thank you, Callie.
Of course.
You can read Callie and the rest of our policy team's coverage and subscribe to our Daily on Energy newsletter at washingtonexaminer.com.